A few minutes gone by, it's the live coverage of Parliament's sitting as is ongoing. The report of the Appointments Committee on the nominees for the Supreme Court by the President has been laid now by the chair of the Appointments Committee, that's the first Deputy Speaker, Honorable Kwabena Agyapong, and the Parliament is considering the approval of the 7 justices of the Apex Court. So this is what is happening now in Parliament, some 18 minutes after 5 here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. But away from Parliament, let's get into some issues that indeed created a number of reactions from lots of you who have been following how things have been playing out, especially in the new Patriotic Party. There's more growing discontent to the decision by the opposition New Patriotic Party National Executive Committee exactly a week ago to proceed to hold its presidential primary for the 2028 general elections without reforming the delegate structure for the polls. Now, this evening, close allies of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia ahead of the 2024 election, that's the likes of Kwabena Agyapong, they voiced out their discontent and their disapproval of that said decision by the National Executive Committee to organize the flagbearer elections on the 31st of January. This is Kwabena Agyapong speaking when he met some members of the party, and in fact also reiterating the point that has been made by the likes of Kennedy Agyapong about this decision taken by the party's National Executive Committee. He says it is not the best and there has to be a rethink.
I was one of the few people that committee no friend me say oh me propose am the buy no o ma hwe ye pa ne ade na me se me das. Ti o wa ka me say ade o ma fa ni na che say ade my dream ho pass here the Bebua party. Oh, I'm accept former constituency chairman, former regional, former national, former MPs, former ministers, former DCs, nina. Police station almost does so how no mo adwuma. I want the man ye. Ti me sorry we meeting them Tina man tin ye na say. Omso yeah progressive expansion. Now the two become. And was as a two. One and a once in the back point. A dear more system now force any na. A de trouble a bar and ibra bar. Yem fa a dada phone me count. Omu de Yemen and my point on my check. Now, ma idea no any more inclusive, any complete. People will feel a sense of belonging again. Oh, and then it is a more democratic arrangement, more reflective of the base of our party. It me and no sadia. Let's see a presidential candidate no first. He said the kind. No. Oh, send na agenda for my presidential union. The news. Kwabena Agyapong says top from bottom is my motto from bottom. My bottom from top. Me make her say the current situation in woman division say ya ban. See it need be ye to say the mekan and I put it in fine print and I sent it around. That's right. It was clear say after we have achieved the expansion of the electoral college. And so no my Daniel idea. Na ebinu kra say me nam kofa bae and I wouldn't say them and be asem na dream pana me dey bae man tiase. Party yes so funny say nipa ni we are there kra na wo yire ho ya there odwune papa na obi edwune bone ama. So enti ye call meeting and I make sure that two on for say yeah, concentrating on expansion no and no here party for no. Now your message of expansion no more and call out. Now enter be a national delegates conference. So honestly, a take a decision for the presidential layina. Yeah. Oh, be a nyan too. Almost yen is here. And you meeting no. And your party no the only thing that everybody is talking about is the presidential primaries here, 31st. Meanwhile, idea here is not the date of the election, but those who are going to be part of the electoral college. And only here. Intermediate between now and 19th, we campaign.
Well, that's Kwabena Agyapong, one-time flagbearer hopeful of the new Patriotic Party. If you recall, he joined forces with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia going into the 2024 elections. And you just heard him there addressing party members. He says that decision by the National Executive Committee is not one that he supports. He says, yes, the Professor Michael Quay fact-finding team contacted him to seek his views. He made a suggestion, and he says that there was some agenda to twist what he had said, that he was supporting the top-bottom approach, which is being adopted now. And he says he never made any statement in support of this approach that has been announced by the National Executive Committee of the party. He is one of a number of top people within the new Patriotic Party who have expressed their disapproval of this decision. You heard Kennedy Agyapong as well, and then also this as Boakye Jackal, who's described this decision as nonsense. Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otchere has been looking at how the reactions to this decision has been over the past at least 1 week. Exactly a week the party took this decision. He's joining us on the telephone. He's a political analyst and a lecturer, senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. Dr. Asante-Otchere, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, my brother Alfred, and good evening to your listeners.
You just heard Kwabena Agyapong there. I mean, he's adding on to the many people who are criticizing the decision. But listening to the details of his reasoning for his disapproval, how does it strike you? To the extent that, yes, he met the committee, he made a suggestion, and that's been twisted to mean that he supports this decision.
Well, obviously, it reinforces the idea that there is definitely an agenda that some people have set as a way of skewing the impending elections to favor a particular candidate. Don't forget that prior to the 2024 presidential primaries, NPP presidential primaries, special presidential primaries, and the presidential primaries itself, we had about 10 candidates before the special presidential primaries. Now, out of these 10, 9 suggested that they should organize the elections, in a particular area, in a concentrated area. Dr. Bawumia had no voice, he had no view to that. And yet, NEC, or is it SEC or NEC, went ahead to do a decentralized form of election. So, who were they favoring? Because if the election is about stakeholders, you have 9 out of 10 who are stakeholders for whom you are going to conduct the elections for. And yet you went ahead to do otherwise. So I will not be surprised if they went ahead, right, to conduct the presidential elections on the 31st of January. I believe sincerely, and I have done the analysis with you, I think, yesterday and so many other platforms, it just does not make sense to me. If you are using old delegates, old register, right, to conduct a fresh election, it just does not make sense. Besides, not too long ago, the Michael Quay report came. So, logically, we need to see some changes, some constitutional amendments at the conference scheduled for July. And then you can go ahead to do the implementation along that path. And if you do the implementation along that path, then certainly the reforms will take their shape along the line. So that means you will now be building the structures of the party, at every level, and you get to the presidential, primaries as well. But it appears that roles have been turned upside down. People have agenda. Others are trying to preserve their positions now and in the near future. And all of these are creating some kind of market. That is the more reason why I've said that, look, where the NPP finds itself, they are at the crossroads, they are facing leadership crisis, the authority of national executive, seem not to be there, and they are just confused individuals. And so, the other point ought to be made that, look, perhaps the way and manner President Akufo-Addo handled the party itself, as if it was just the property of a few, virtually alienated the base of the party. And once Mr. Akufo-Addo is no longer present as the leader, you could see that the center is not holding. There is no individual that can catch the whip for which everybody else will follow. There is no such individual because it just does not make logical sense. For example, that Dr. Brian Agyapong, who became an avowed supporter of Dr. Bawumia, suddenly turns around and says that he also wants to contest for the presidential slot. What is happening? Is it not a case of leadership crisis? Is it not a case of Dr. Bawumia not, being accepted hook, line, and sinker or in a wholesome manner by the entirety of the support base? All these and many other questions that they are grappling with ought to be answered, because I have never seen this arrangement before. Yes, I have said that I can agree to some extent why they want to turn the roles or want to do it from the top to the bottom. Of course, it is because there's too much heat, there's too much acrimony. And so you want to cure this mischief by, conducting the presidential elections. And once that is done, then it means that you have the head and the body will follow suit. These have their own negative ramifications, of which, other stalwarts of the party are raising concern. As whether they will help into that, I don't know. But it tells you that the center is not holding. And that's quite unfortunate they've gotten to this level.
I see, but you hear the people who are speaking and who are supposed to be part of the top hierarchy. I mean, the top tier, the positions within the party, and they are the ones who are voicing their disapproval publicly. I mean, how can that, how would that hurt the party if it is not checked? Especially because you've had already 3 of those who are supposed to be eyeing the flag bearership saying they do not approve of this particular decision.
Well, what that means is that the NPP itself has not learned anything from the disaster that is suffered in the 2024 election. These are some of the decisions that they have been taken that have led to some splinter groups coming out of the party. Like the likes of Asante-Otchere, and now we have a new person, is it Dr. Something, who also intends to, form a party out of the bloc of the NPP. Certain decisions may alienate the grassroots. Now, that is the more reason why I support the views of others who are suggesting that, look, the structures of the party ought to be built, out of which you can produce a presidential candidate that can help you win the presidency. But as of now, there is no structure. You see, you have been groomed brutally from the elections that was not long ago conducted. This is not the time to make unpardonable mistakes once again. You need to get your act together. Go by proper consensus. Don't go into meetings with an agenda that everybody can read in between the lines that it is clear. It surprises me that a certain elite leadership of the party will still want to wholeheartedly support, which is their democratic right though, wholeheartedly support Dr. Bawumia. I think that they may want to sit down and do proper introspective analysis, devoid of passion or bias. They need to do that assessment because there is no way Dr. Bawumia would set a baggage, before and behind him, could easily market himself in such a way that he will gain wholesale acceptability by all and sundry. Besides, bear in mind that in this country, the main support base of either NDC or MPP cannot give you outright victory. You would need the non-aligned, you would need independent-minded, you would need floating voters, and so on and so forth. They are in their millions. And so you don't need persons who are brutally tainted along the line to lead the party. And even if that is the case, if the system is not skewed and it is fair and he wins, that is what the party believes in. So you take him there, and when he loses, you cannot blame anybody but the party itself. I'm sure that is democracy. You would have used the structures to re-elect him. That is fair. Let him go to the contest and see what happens. When he loses, it's fairly in the quarters of the party. So the structures of the party now, they are in tatters because those who are the helm of affairs do not have the wherewithal to crack the whip because nobody is going to listen to them. And especially, those who have been seen to be outright supporters of Dr. Bawumia, what that means is that the rest will always oppose them. And so I like what Haruna, the Deputy General Secretary, said, that, you see, those are the helm of affairs will have to play fair by everybody. You see, and that in itself is a good call. But if you are seen...
But will fairness be achieved? Will that call and the play of fairness be achieved, especially with how things are playing out now, from what you said?
I don't see that happening. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. The only period that you can see fairness playing is that let us go back to the status quo. Don't be in a hurry to elect a flag bearer. As for the murkiness, it will come. They believe that they are washing too much of their dirty linen in public. You can call on them to be measured because now you find yourself in a position. If you give a punchline, others will give serious, punchlines against you, and it will be counterproductive because it will be punchline against the other. That is not the way to build a party. So for now, they should go back to the drawing board, revert to the status quo. If you think that early elections will help, you can start from the ground or the bottom. Do it accordingly so you get to the point where you elect the flag bearer. Thinking that because of the acrimony, you want to forestall the acrimony, the structures that you want to use to stop the acrimony will inure to the benefit of one particular individual or one particular candidate. That will not produce fairness, and that will create or foment further disunity within the party.
And in fact, we're just also receiving news of another group of former MMDCs who are saying that they do not support the said announcement of they declaring their support for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, because yesterday, if you recall, we heard the former MC for Adenta who says he is the spokesperson for the 220 former MMDCs who met Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia yesterday. Another group says that yes, they were part of the meeting yesterday, but they did not talk about declaring support for any of the flag bearers. They were just going to meet them as they met Kwabena Agyapong sometime last week. I want to take a listen to him, okay? Then I'll find out from you what you're reading of how all of this is playing out. This is a former MMDC for Juman South speaking to the media yesterday.
Honorable Ken, so and check, and it is former vice president, Super Ushai. The Koba in the same year. The Beshan Naya to some meeting, this last week and this week, so that in the free north and other areas, a bar, almost uncle, almost I'm a blue, yes, programming at the book. And unfortunately, yesterday on Thursday, the Kushia. Ya papa honorable Ken Ohene Kwabena Agyapong Thursday when you think about kaba you as I said or the my Asante or the my any call ya papa Brian there so was on Saturday and Sunday. It is Saturday in ya call proposi e kama but you need for live by my Agyapong and only Asia oka and then my party, the vision for this country. On who I invited, media, they are declare, say, bring to the party to be nomination for our Primaries contest of the coup. On the other side, come on, when you be at them, one Kasa and Cubia, and then they say, or your mind as your TNT, what the mind and that, then I buy. Then that, and I ever be here for my vice president. Platform so yan decide the beer say yaba yan former MMDC yaba be declare ama one particular party. Honorable Kwabena Agyapong yan yes agreed. Honorable Brian yan decide sana former Vice President, and so he decided. And this will be said, MMPC for Yakabo, Messi and Rossi, the former Vice President, and there was no discussion. Meeting, I say, you meeting, and I mean, Madame Fubi, and I mean, colleague. Okay, say, oh, young declaration. Come to the declaration, baby. I'm not going to say, oh, Jawasem, because for me, only maybe you walk. And to one from it. Yet, they say, yeah, declaration. MMPC for ya, I declare, I'm a Dr. Mahmoud for the unity of the party. 2028, and that's a year from. Say, a year 2024, they are now. Our constituency chairman, MPs. Regional executive, national executive, I declare one candidate or the other. I think Papemuba party one, the coalition Bulusu Kutono. Say, Sako, yes, I did you are. Yes, someone. When you are MMDC, when you problem my firm.
Well, so that's a former MMDC there. In fact, in the video we just showed on Facebook at 3FM927, he was surrounded by a number of other former MMDCs who were at this same meeting with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia yesterday, where they are reported to have declared their support for him. But Dr. Asante-Otchere, you heard him. He says that declaration is not a representation of all 220 of them. What's going on?
Well, I saw this video as of yesterday when you even conducted the interview on TV3. I had already seen it. And so I said that, well, it tells you that, as the late John would tell you, dear delegate, you could see that there's that kind of sharp division between, the MMDCs as a corporate entity. They felt that they had to be very consistent. You did not declare for anyone. Besides, if they had hedged, that would have been something good for them as a bargaining chip. That would have really helped them. But now that some have chipped off their hands, then it means that their position is already known. But it also tells you that there isn't formal unity among the MMDCs. And that also tell you that it's not everybody who is in support of, the agenda of Dr. Bawumia.
Doc, I appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much. Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otchere is a political analyst, also a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, joining us with his thoughts on this. So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's cross over back to Parliament, because the vetting, in fact, the debate on the